10 nations that are overflowing with homeless Filipinos abroad. She left the Philippines with hope. Now she's homeless in a foreign city, begging in a language she doesn't speak. No money, no passport, no one coming to help. Thousands of Filipinos go abroad chasing a dream. But for some, it turns into a nightmare, sleeping in parks, working illegally, hiding from immigration. This video reveals the top 10 countries where Filipinos are falling through the cracks, forgotten, exploited, left to survive on scraps. You'll hear real stories. You'll feel every word. And by the end, you won't forget the girl who died alone at an airport, clutching a photo of a son. Smash the like button if you're ready for the truth. Let's begin. 10. South Korea. Okay, real talk. When you think of South Korea, you probably imagine BTS, Samsung, kimchi, and those sleek neon-lit cities, right? But for thousands of Filipinos working behind those bright lights, the story is way darker. Roughly 70,000 Pinoys are currently living in South Korea. Many work in factories, elderly care, or small industrial jobs, physically demanding, low-paying, and often unstable. Now here's the kicker. The minimum wage is 10,030 South Korean won per hour, about $7.40. But the average monthly rent in Seoul is around 1.2 million South Korean won, roughly $880. That's just for a tiny studio, nothing fancy. And that doesn't even include utilities, food, or that occasional midnight samgyeopsal craving. So what happens when someone loses their job? Or worse, their visa? Let's talk about Arvin Lim. He landed in Seoul full of hope, armed with a welding certificate and his mom's rosary. First job, factory line. 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, barely enough time to breathe. But he pushed through. Then came the slump. Orders slowed. The company cut him loose. With no job and his work visa on the edge, Arvin overstayed. And just like that, he became invisible. Now, he sleeps in subway stations. The same guy who used to wire electronics for export now panhandles near Exit 7 of Dongdaemun Station. Rain or snow, he's out there, layered in donated clothes, dodging immigration patrols, calling home less and less. Now I want to ask you something. Should struggling OFWs like Arvin be deported, or should there be programs to help them bounce back? What would you do if you were in his shoes? Let's open this up. How can we protect overseas Filipinos from falling through the cracks? Is the dream still worth chasing when the safety net doesn't exist? Drop your thoughts below. Let's make this a conversation, not just a documentary. This is just the first of 10 countries. And believe me, some stories get even more intense from here. Forced labor, mental health breakdowns, entire families stranded abroad. So stick around, because someone, somewhere, needs their story told. 9. Japan. We just came from South Korea, where factory workers like Arvin are sleeping in train stations just to survive. But now we are in Japan, the land of bullet trains, clean streets, and vending machines that sell everything from ramen to umbrellas. To outsiders, Japan looks like a dream. But for over 300,000 Filipinos living here, the reality is far more complicated. You see, rent in major cities like Tokyo, Osaka starts at around 80,000 yen per month. That's over $500 for a space barely bigger than a walk-in closet. Pair that with an average wage of just 1,000 yen per hour for many migrant workers, about $6.50, and suddenly, this dream destination becomes a financial trap. Add in sky-high food costs, expensive health insurance, and Japan's notorious language barrier, and you've got a recipe for quiet desperation. Many Filipino migrants come in on caregiving or trainee visas. Sounds stable, right? But once those contracts end, or life throws a curveball, there's often no safety net. Take Lisa Wamura's story, for example. She came from Bulacan and worked in a ramen shop in Kyoto. She married a local guy, built a life, and had a beautiful daughter. But after the marriage ended, everything unraveled. With no Japanese fluency and no support system, she couldn't keep up with rent. The landlord didn't care that she had a child. She was evicted in winter and ended up in a government shelter, sharing a room with 6 other women and their kids. Lisa now works night shifts at a fish market, scrubbing mackerel and hauling crates until 3 a.m. Her daughter goes to school with donated books and second-hand shoes. Yet if you look at Lisa's Facebook profile, you'd see smiling selfies with cherry blossoms, filtered food shots, and cheerful captions. It's all a mask, because to show weakness, even from abroad, feels like failure. And I think many of us know that pressure all too well. So let me ask you this. How many more are living like Lisa, smiling online, suffering offline? Should Japan do more to support migrant workers who fall through the cracks? And how do we, as a community, step in before someone we love ends up homeless in a foreign country? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear your opinions. And stay with me, because next, we are flying to a country where Filipinos are being worked to the bone with zero labor rights, and it's happening in broad daylight. You don't want to miss this. 8. Italy. Jorge Evangelista never thought his life would end up under a bridge. But tonight, As Rome sleeps and the lights along the Tiber River flicker in silence, that's exactly where he is, curled up on flattened cardboard, hugging his backpack like it's the last thing that hasn't abandoned him. Jorge, a 46-year-old from Iloilo, used to work as a caregiver for an elderly couple in Naples. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid just enough, €6 an hour, long hours, little rest. He'd send half of it home to his teenage son studying in Cebu. But after months of delayed wages and rising rent, €700 a month for a shared flat, he couldn't hold on any longer. The couple said they'd pay him next week. That week never came. And here's the heartbreaking twist. Jorge overstayed his visa, hoping to regularize his status through Italy's amnesty program. But paperwork delays, language barriers, and employer negligence left him stuck in limbo. No documents, no wages, no roof, just hope, slowly evaporating into Roman smog. Italy is home to over 168,000 Filipinos, many of them working in domestic care, nannies, caregivers, housekeepers. It's noble work. But for a country that romanticizes La Dolce Vita, life for our kababayan here can be bitter. The average income for undocumented or informal workers, just €5 to €7 per hour. And rent alone can swallow everything, especially in cities like Milan, Florence, or Rome. Add in strict immigration rules and delayed salary payments, sometimes for months, and you've got a perfect storm. A storm Jorge couldn't outrun. But Jorge's story isn't isolated. It's quietly coming. So I want to ask you, right now, how is this still happening? In a country famous for pasta and passion, why is there such silence around the exploitation of migrant workers? And more importantly, what do we do when hard-working Filipinos like Jorge are treated like they're invisible? Share your thoughts in the comments. What would you do if this was your dad? Your brother? Your friend? Let's create space for real conversations here, not just about survival abroad, but dignity. And stick around, because up next, we are heading somewhere you might not expect, where Filipinos are given jobs, but stripped of their rights in return. The truth might make you angry or inspire to act. This isn't just another list. This is a journey. And we are just getting started. 7. Taiwan. Somewhere in Taipei, beneath the polished pews of a quiet church, a woman named Roselle de Guzman whispers prayers not for miracles, but for time. For strength. For the will to tell her family back home in Cavite that she's not okay. That she hasn't been okay for months. Roselle works in elderly care, one of the most common jobs for the 160,000 plus Filipinos in Taiwan. She's been changing adult diapers, lifting patients twice the size, and preparing bland soups since 5 a.m., 6 days a week, sometimes 7. She earns 176 new Taiwan dollar per hour. Sounds manageable. Until you realize rent in the city costs at least 10,000 new Taiwan dollar per month. And no, that doesn't include utilities, groceries, or the money she wires back to her kids for tuition. So when Roselle's employer got sick of the paperwork and decided not to renew her contract, she was stuck. Overnight. No income. No home. Just a basement beneath a church, where kind souls let her sleep on thin mattresses between brooms and mops. That's a sanctuary now. That's a secret. She tells her family she's fine, sends selfies from parks she barely visits. Because how do you say, Anak, Mama is homeless, without breaking your child's world? And here's what makes it worse. Taiwan's laws are complicated. Once a worker becomes undocumented, access to aid becomes a bureaucratic maze. You're not just broke, you're invisible. You avoid hospitals, police, and even fellow workers because one wrong word could mean deportation. But here's the truth, Roselle isn't alone. Thousands of OFWs in Taiwan work in manufacturing plants and care homes under contracts that are often unfair and unforgiving. Delayed wages, unsafe working conditions, rent that devours their paychecks, legal gray areas that silence their cries for help. And now I want to turn to you. Yes, you watching this. Have you ever felt the pressure to pretend you're doing well just to keep your family from worrying? Have you or someone you know ever lived a double life abroad, smiling online while breaking inside? Let's talk about it in the comments. Don't just scroll past this. Let's start something powerful together. Because what's happening in Taiwan isn't just sad, it's solvable. But only if we see it. If we listen. If we push for reforms that protect migrant workers. So tell me, what's your take? What needs to change? And don't go anywhere. Because next up, we are flying to a country where workers are welcomed with smiles, but left to suffer in silence once their contracts end. You won't believe what's hiding beneath the glitter. This isn't a travel documentary. This is survival, unfiltered. And we are not done yet. 6. Greece. You know what's ironic? Dennis Aguilar came to Greece dreaming of history, of ancient ruins, blue domes, and better pay. But tonight, his living history, by sleeping on a park bench near the Acropolis, wrapped in a tattered jacket and memories of a life that once felt full of promise. Dennis used to clean luxury apartments for wealthy Athenians. He earned just €3 an hour, less than what many tourists spend on a single cup of iced coffee. His rent? €400 a month for a tiny shared room with a leaking ceiling. After bills, food, and remittances to his mother in Pangasinan, Dennis had nothing left. And when the homeowner he worked for suddenly moved to London, he was told, "Sorry, no more work. You'll find something else." But he didn't. Not in a country still reeling from its economic crisis. Not as a foreigner with no savings and no fallback plan. Now, he brushes his teeth in public fountains. He keeps a photo of his daughter in his wallet, smiling in her school uniform. She thinks her dad is working in a hotel. She doesn't know he hasn't had a real bed in months. Dennis's story is heartbreaking, but far from rare. Greece is home to around 29,000 Filipinos, most of them in domestic and housekeeping roles. The work is long, the pay is low, and the safety nets? Practically non-existent. When jobs vanish, many turn to churches, not just for food, but for hope. It's the only place that doesn't ask for papers, just humanity. So let me ask you, what would you do if the dream you left everything for turned into a daily battle just to eat and sleep? Would you tell your family the truth? Or keep pretending, like Dennis? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's make this space safe for real conversations. And don't scroll away just yet, because what's coming next will hit even harder. We are flying to a place where OFWs are surrounded by lights and skyscrapers, but live under shadows you won't believe. We are not just listing countries, we are exposing systems. And we promise, by the end of this video, you'll never see greener pastures the same way again. 5. Germany. When Maricel Rivera landed in Berlin, she believed she'd finally made it. A Filipino nurse stepping into the heart of Europe, ready to help others and build a future for her 2 boys back home in Laguna. But less than a year later, she's sleeping in a crowded migrant shelter, bruised, broken, and forgotten by a system that promised structure but delivered silence. Maricel worked double shifts at a hospital, often pulling 12-hour days for just €12 an hour. It was tough, but she endured. Para sa mga anak ko, she'd whisper to herself between patients. But one icy February morning, while walking to the train, she slipped and fractured her hip. And that's when everything collapsed. Because in Germany, the land of order and process, bureaucracy can move slower than healing bones. Her sick pay was delayed. Her employer put her on indefinite leave. And with rent in Berlin averaging €1,200 per month for a tiny flat, Maricel was evicted within weeks. Now she shares a bunk in a shelter with 6 other women, one of them a fellow Filipina who was also let go after suffering a burnout from non-stop shifts in elderly care. Germany may boast a highly developed healthcare system and some of Europe's strongest labor protections, but for migrant workers like Maricel, the experience can be starkly different. According to Statista, over 60,000 Filipinos work in Germany, most in healthcare and hospitality. Many face what experts call structural exclusion, being legally employed, yet practically unsupported when things go wrong. Here's the brutal math: earn €12 per hour, work full-time, that's about €1,920 per month before taxes. Subtract rent, insurance, food, and what's left. Sometimes, not even enough for a plane ticket home, let alone a future. Now I want to turn the spotlight to you. Yes, you watching. What should happen when the very people caring for others end up needing care themselves? Shouldn't there be a safety net? Or have we normalized sacrificing our OFWs just to keep foreign economies running? Comment below, what system would you build to protect them? Let's not just talk, let's think. And hold on, because this isn't over. Next, we are heading to a place that offers glitz and luxury on the surface, but hides brutal truths beneath golden skylines. You don't want to miss this next one. This series isn't just telling stories. It's exposing what really happens when Filipinos chase dreams abroad. So if you've ever thought about working overseas, or you know someone who has, watch till the end. The truth might just save someone's life. Imagine waking up on cardboard, in an alley lit by neon signs, just 5 steps away from a rooftop party where millionaires sip wine under chandeliers. That's Ella Francisco's life now. 6 months ago, she was a domestic helper living in a 60th floor flat overlooking Victoria Harbour. One of over 200,000 Filipinos working in Hong Kong, ironing shirts and singing old OPM hits to keep her homesickness at bay. 6 days a week, 16 hours a day, no overtime, no room for complaints. She sent every Hong Kong dollar home, even skip meals, because her father's meds, her daughter's tuition, depended on her. Then, out of nowhere, her employer accused her of stealing a luxury watch. No proof, no hearing, just, you're fired, leave. In Hong Kong, once you lose your job, you get exactly 14 days to exit the country. That's not enough time to appeal, not enough time to breathe. But Ella couldn't leave, not with her family's needs. So, she overstayed. She thought another job would come. It didn't. She now sleeps behind restaurants in Mongkok, eats discarded buns, and uses a gas station restroom to clean up. She's overstayed her visa, hunted daily by immigration police. And here's the heartbreak. Her family back home still thinks she's okay. She sends money. She smiles in selfies. But she hasn't slept in a bed in months. Now here's something we need to say. From our stats, we've got more viewers outpacing subscribers. You're here for a reason. So if you believe stories like Ella's need to be heard, kindly join our community. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you. Alright, back to it. The minimum legal salary in Hong Kong is 4,870 Hong Kong dollar a month, and rent can eat up 4,500 Hong Kong dollar if you're not housed by your employer. So if you're fired, there's no financial cushion, no backup system, no shelter, and if you speak up about abuse, you risk deportation. Or worse, blacklisting. According to the Mission for Migrant Workers, 1 in 4 Filipino domestic helpers has experienced abuse, physical, psychological, or financial. But they stay quiet, because fear pays the bills. Ella once said, "I pray immigration doesn't find me before my daughter graduates. That's my only prayer now." That's the real cost of being invisible in a city of flashing lights. And here's where it hits hardest. She's not the only one. Thousands like Ella out there, hiding in plain sight, holding onto hope with blistered hands and hollow stomachs. So now I ask you, should the 14-day visa rule be changed for OFWs? Should there be a better safety net for those risking everything abroad? Drop your thoughts below. Because next, we are flying into a European nation where Filipinos earn big. But the pressure to be perfect is driving workers to the edge. Don't miss it. This story gets darker and more urgent. 3. Oman. Picture this. You're 25, the eldest daughter. Your father's lungs are failing. Your siblings are hungry. And the only thing standing between them and starvation is you. So you sign a contract, kiss your Lola's rosary goodbye, and board a plane to Oman, thinking, this is it. I'll be the family's hero. That was Nali Pascal's exact dream. Like over 40,000 Filipinos in Oman, she arrived with hope stitched into every inch of her soul. She was promised shelter, safety, and an OMR 100 monthly salary, barely $260, but she clung to it like salvation. Then came the silence. The moment she handed over her passport, she stopped being Nali and became Filipina. No off days, 3 houses to clean, no payment for 8 straight months. She slept on a concrete floor next to a leaking water tank and was told, "You're lucky you're not in jail." So she ran, undocumented, unpaid, unseen. Today, she hides in an abandoned construction camp outside Muscat, sleeping under rusted scaffolding, drinking from a broken pipe, surviving on expired canned sardines shared with 4 others just like her. And yet, she's still breathing. She whispered to our source, "They buried me in this country, but they forgot I'm still alive." That one hits like a brick to the chest, doesn't it? Here's the real-world punch. While rent in Oman averages OMI $200, $500+, most domestic workers earn half of that or less. No contracts, no insurance, no labor protections. And yet the demand keeps growing. Why? Because Filipinos are viewed as low-cost, high-loyalty. The system thrives on silence. But Nali didn't stay silent. 2 years later, with nothing left to lose, she walked straight into the Philippine embassy and said, "Deport me, jail me, just don't let me die invisible." And for the first time in years, someone listened. She was rescued. Today, Nali's back in Nueva Ecija, not rich, not broken, just free. And what does she do now? She runs a small Facebook group, helping abused OFWs connect with shelters and legal help. No sponsors, no salary, just heart. Because sometimes, redemption doesn't look like riches. It looks like survival with purpose. Now, I want to hear from you. Should governments ban employers from holding OFWs' passports? Should embassies face penalties for delayed action? Let's talk about it in the comments. And don't go anywhere. Because next, we are headed to a place that looks like paradise from the outside, but inside, Filipino lives are crumbling faster than the luxury towers they clean. What happens next will shock you to your core. 2. United Kingdom. Now, imagine this. You're a nurse. You wear a crisp uniform. Your badge says NHS. You've just spent 12 hours keeping strangers alive, holding their hands through chemo, CPR, and heartache. And yet when your shift ends, you go home to a pop-up tent behind a grocery store in East London. That's the current life of Jonas Velasco, one of the 200,000 plus Filipinos who came to the UK chasing better pay, respect, and maybe a little piece of that Western dream we've all been sold. And in fairness, at first, it looked promising. The United Kingdom did open doors for Filipino nurses, care workers, and cleaners. Because let's be real, their system would collapse without us. We are the backbone of Britain's care economy. But here's the cold reality. Minimum wage sits at £11 an hour, while London rent averages £1,500 a month, and that's for a box-size flat. Add food, utilities, and transport, and you're left counting coins for canned soup by the second week. Jonas tried to make it work. He picked up night shifts, slept 3 hours a day, skipped meals. But after his agency contract expired and he couldn't renew fast enough, he fell through the cracks, literally. Aid group said, "We are full." The council said, "We'll get back to you." That was 6 months ago. Now, He sleeps on a flattened cardboard box under an orange tarp. Winter's coming. He keeps an inhaler in his sock so it doesn't freeze overnight. He said, "I used to take care of the elderly. Now, I wait in line with them for soup." Gut punch, right? The UK may have social safety nets, but they are stretched thin, and undocumented or recently unemployed OFWs often fall outside the safety zone. According to the UK's Office for National Statistics, over 280,000 people are currently homeless in England alone. And yes, a growing number are migrants who came legally but hit a bureaucratic wall. From our stats, we've got more viewers outpacing subscribers. Kindly join our community. Thank you. Alright, back to it. But here's the twist. Jonas didn't give up. 2 weeks ago, a Filipino midwife spotted his tent while walking home from night duty. She took a photo, shared it in a Filipino London Facebook group. Within 48 hours, Jonas had a warm bed, donated clothes, and a job lead. He's not back on his feet yet, but is standing. So now I'm asking you, should the UK create a protected housing zone for foreign workers in transition? Or is the system working exactly as intended? Until we speak up, drop your thoughts in the comments. And stick around, because our final stop? It's a place where the illusion of opportunity is so strong, it's built entire cities on the backs of Filipino workers, only to leave them broken in silence. That one may just break you. 1. United States. Paula Mendoza wakes up every morning at 5 a.m. Not to a cozy apartment or even a cramped shared flat, but to a crowded shelter in downtown Los Angeles. She tiptoes past rows of cots, tucks her ID under her bra, and fixes her hair in the cracked mirror of a public restroom. Then she scrolls through her family's Facebook group, liking, commenting, even sending selfies with coffee cups she doesn't own. They don't know she's homeless. And she's terrified they never find out. Because when Paula left the Philippines 3 years ago, she promised to make it in America. And for a while, it looked like she did. But here's the gut-wrenching reality. Over 4 million Filipinos live in the US, our largest diaspora worldwide. And yet, many are quietly slipping through the cracks. Rent in cities like San Francisco, New York, and LA has ballooned to over $2,500 a month, while minimum wage hovers around $15 per hour. That's barely enough to survive, let alone send money home. Healthcare? Outrageously expensive. Childcare? Don't even ask. Food? Skyrocketing. And one emergency, just one, can spiral a working-class OFW straight into poverty. And that's exactly what happened to Paula. Her employer shut down. No notice. No severance. She lived off her savings for a month, then sold her laptop, then her phone. And then, just like that, she was sleeping in a shelter with her suitcase under her head. Now, here's where things get real. From our stats, we've got more viewers than subscribers. That's a ton of silent watchers. So hey, if you're still here, it means this story matters to you. Smash that like button to show love for every OFW out there fighting just to stay afloat. Now back to Paula. She's not giving up. She volunteers at a community pantry. She's learning new skills through a free tech program. And she sways. Sways, this time next year, she'll have her own place again. Even if it's just a room, she says, I'll hang my own curtains. That's the resilience no one talks about. According to the National Alliance to End Homelessness, over 500,000 Americans are homeless on any given night. And a growing portion? Migrants, especially those who came for work, fell out of status, or got priced out by the very cities that once welcomed them. Now, I want to hear from you. Is the American dream still real? Or is it time we admit it's a luxury few can afford?